Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Iori Folarin. It's a Friday. You know what follows. People will thank God it's a Friday. I don't know why they don't thank God it's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and so on. But Friday has gone and gotten that particular copyright. But some, still serious business around. And now we got one more of our girls back. Although one has to be careful about that because it's been pointed out that the girl that we got back, which we happily, joyfully got back, is actually not one of the over 200, 278, 279, as is being said. Even the BBOG, crew, so to speak, they've said that a tweet from the presidency has confirmed what they already had known, having checked their database and their registers, that this, kid of ours that we got back, this girl that we got back, is actually not one of those. And now, what this probably means is the federal government is doing a lot of work, but this time around, in these times, there's a lot more quiet, perhaps they're dealing with the right people. What happened? Did the girl escape? Was she part of any organized effort? Those are things that we'll talk about because we, from time to time, we do get someone to come in from Borno, or if he came in for other things, we quickly grab him and make sure that we include this one. So under that kind of a guise, we got our friend back, Issa Gusau. Issa Gusau is Special Advisor, Communication and Strategy to the Borno State Governor. Thank you as always for coming on.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
Indeed. And our dear friend, Monday Yokichi Obani. I always like to go the Monday Onyekachi Ubani route. Thank you very much for coming. Onyekachi is our second national vice president of the MPA. Now, first of all, how is Borno? Let's start from there. You talk Chibok, you're talking Borno. You talk Borno, you're talking Chibok. It's going to shift when time comes. But how is Borno now?
Borno, there is very high morale. Let me use that word. The confidence of the citizens of Borno is at a very high level. Of course, we know that there are isolated cases of suicide attacks that we often hear, but we believe that the insurgents, it just goes to show that incidents, the insurgents don't have the kind of strength that they used to have. In the past, like we all knew, they usually moved in hundreds with vehicles to come and take over, communities. Now, that's the much, they can do. But of course, we know that more needs to be done. This morning, before I came here, the governor called me about this issue of University of Maiduguri. He was actually thinking about, he's in Abuja for a meeting. He came in yesterday. He was telling me that he would need to meet the university's management to discuss ways that we must increase security surveillance in the university, wherever the state government, would need to partner with the university. I think the whole aim, like of the Boko Haram, they always want to instill fear in Nigerians. I think their target now is to bring down the confidence of UNIMED. Over the years, in all the attacks since 2009 that we've been going through this crisis, UNIMED didn't actually come under attack of the Boko Haram. So it was as if even while some universities that had no Boko Haram had academic calendars interrupted, there was no such case in UNIMED. So, but I think what they want to do now is to make students to become afraid. And then if you notice, like the report I got today, they were targeting the girls' hostel. The whole aim is to stop the girls from going to school. But I think the people of Borno State have unanimously resolved that more than anything else, the best way to tell the Boko Haram that you can't stop us is to increase school enrollment. And that's what is being done. Okay.
And Onyekachi, when you look at it, staying for the moment on the University of Maiduguri attack, suicide attack, there was a time when, first of all, most Muslims, if not all Muslims, have said that Boko Haram has nothing to do with Islam. So it's like the intellectuals are saying that you can't pull the wool over our eyes. This is not part of it. Do you think that might have been, I'm speculating now, one of the reasons for Boko Haram to say that since we don't even have the intellectual support, because that they would be saying that they're looking at the radical, theological, and those people who could give any sort of authenticity to their claims must have shut the door in their face. Do you think this could be the reason for this kind of attack?
Attacking the university environment. But remember the initial objective, or I don't know whether they have changed it. They said that education is evil.
Yes. In fact, the very name Boko Haram, I understand, has to do with...
Book is bad.
Something like that.
Something like that. So
Western education.
Is bad. So they never, believe in Western education, and they were trying as much as possible to eliminate and instill fear, amongst the people, especially of those who go to school. Of course, abducting the Chibok girls, was to accomplish that purpose, to ensure that girls do not go to school. When you instill fear in people, they will not like to go to school. So going to the academic environment, like a university, and then do the havoc that was committed, as rightly pointed out, is instill fear, among the
especially on a soft
target. Exactly. So I'm very happy to hear that there has been relative peace in that state, because if there is the most attacked state by the Boko Haram,
of course,
the insurgency is Borno. And everyone knows, anyone who wants to go to that particular state, the moment you hear the word Bo, the next thing is that this is no-go area, especially even the UCOPA. So I'm happy to hear that peace is gradually returning, and as he pointed out, it is the people themselves that will give you evidence that there is, peace is actually returning to that environment.
So I know that
the governor is doing nothing other than to ensure security of lives and property. Every time I see him on television, it's about issue of security. And
although they missed this particular soft target. No, all humans will make mistakes.
Yes.
For some reason, we didn't see, as you were explaining just earlier, Isa, they've hardly ever attacked those kind of targets, and so there's a sense in which, unfortunately, we were caught napping. But the governor is now vigorously exploring how to beef up security, cooperate more with not just UNIMAID, but I imagine
other institutions.
Other
well,
institutions.
The fact of the matter is that it is surprising to everyone that Boko Haram was able to penetrate UNIMAID. I would tell you that in the whole of Borno State, apart from the government house and maybe military and police formations, the DSS, I don't think there is any institution that is as secured as UNIMAID.
I see.
The university has a very organized security architecture, very organized. If you go to UNIMAID now, you don't even move your car into UNIMAID. When you are dealing with intellectuals, I want to believe that they must have sat down, did a lot of brainstorming, and they came up. So we are all surprised. But of course, when you are dealing with insurgents, these are people that are trying to destroy. That the person that wants to destroy would always think about how to destroy. It is easier to build than to destroy. But then we must continue to think as they think. And as we think, they also think about how to build the security. Part of the reasons why they employ the services of young girls that will mostly believe that they hypnotize. We don't think, a lot of these girls act under drug influence. This is what we believe. And then they use women because, in most cases, women, the involvement of women in crime generally across the world is usually very low. When you see a woman, the tendency of you suspecting her of being a criminal, is very low. That's why they use women. But I think it's a new challenge. The university community, I'm very certain, must have taken this seriously. I'm sure they are doing theirs. But what is important, like I said earlier, is Governor Kashim Shettima. He's a product of that university, mind you. He was telling me this morning, like I said, he will be meeting the management to think about what else is it that needs to be done so that we increase whatever security architecture that is already present in the school.
Let me stay with you if I can, Isa, and Onyekachi, please understand. In development efforts or rehabilitation efforts following the worst of the crisis, and as you say, ever so slowly but surely we're on the way to mend. Boko Haram is on the back foot. How much assistance has come from the world? Because there's a time when the whole world pledged to be there for our girls, not just our girls, but by implication also Borno, because that's their home. And at that time, I think there was a lot of, or not, if not a lot, some we got this, it's all right. Integrity, our integrity and national pride is at stake. We got this. What's the situation now? Have people been able to help more freely than before?
I think the number one category that must be given enormous credits in managing the humanitarian crisis in Borno are members of the international community, from particularly countries, like the UK, the Norwegian government, the ICRC, USAID, and a couple of them, and then the UN.
How about the Red Crescent?
The ICRC, that's the International Committee of the Red Cross.
Okay.
They have done marvelously well. There are two aspects of there are two effects of the Boko Haram crisis. The major one is the humanitarian issue, where you have a lot of IDPs, about 2 million IDPs who don't have, what to eat.
Internally displaced persons.
Internally displaced persons. And then on the other hand, you have the massive destruction on infrastructure. I would tell you that in terms of reconstruction of infrastructure, Borno State government bears 80% of the cost of rebuilding Borno. 80%. We are currently building about 14 out of 20 local government areas. The number of houses that have been built so far, about 30,000 houses have so far been built, but there's still so much to be done. But the humanitarian aspect, the international community has done very well. Now, if you look at the feeding as we speak, the World Food Program is very much on ground. The UN agencies like the IOM, the ICRC. The ICRC does a lot in feeding IDPs. And this ICRC, they are funded by donor countries. And there are times, I know there was a period that the United Kingdom was actually the one funding the ICRC for a period of 6 or 7 months. They have a way of sharing financial commitment amongst themselves. The funds that were raised some time ago in Oslo, I was in Oslo with the governor during the humanitarian fundraiser. The Norwegian government, I think, pledged about $100 million or something. I can't really remember. About $119 million they pledged. And I want to believe they are redeeming it. They redeem in stages. Usually, they don't give funds to anyone. They don't give funds to Borno State government or to the federal government. They have their implementation patterns. In most cases, they work with organs of the United Nations to implement whatever support that they want to channel. In some cases, they use their own platforms. Like the Norwegian government has what they call Norwegian Refugee Council. So they channel their funds to the Norwegian Refugee Council. They acquire the foodstuffs and they distribute it themselves. Okay. The same thing with the ICRC.
Those efforts are going on quite at pace. Let me take a break now. Stay with us, please. We'll come and hear more about this. And also, it's glad to know that international donors are doing this. But what are we ourselves, now we get Borno in any case, what are we ourselves doing? We'll come back and look at that. Stay with us, please. Welcome back, and continuing with our conversation on developments in Borno, Onyekachi, we've just heard from Issa how, any way you look at it, you've just got to credit the international community for their support. We ourselves, Nigeria, Borno State, we have our obligations, and we just heard there that most of the work, in a humanitarian sort of sense, is being done. Are you concerned that we might, because we're getting so much help, not looking to what is our own responsibility, which we have to do to the utmost, and then where it stops, donors can help?
Well, I'm not in Borno, but the information I will give is much.
No, we just heard that 80% of credit goes to international community.
But then even the things I read concerning what is going on there, even in IDP camps, the information is that most of them are not also being taken care of, even in terms of feeding. I mean, it's not uhuru. I mean, it's not all that 100% pleasant. No. People are also still complaining.
Yes.
Even there was this allegation of corruption going on, before there was an direct intervention to stop all that. People were using the food that was supposed to be meant for the IDP camps and all that. So these are things we have been reading in the paper. But from what he's saying,
but that's something of an old story.
Yeah, it's an old story.
Yes.
Well, I don't know the present situation now.
Yes.
So one is happy hearing that the international donors actually really sufficiently funding what is going on in the Northeast. But as you have rightly pointed out, what is our own level of participation, federal government, in order to ensure that these are our citizens are taken care of, and then making sure that issue of humanitarian crisis, is reduced to the barest minimum, because lives, like in fact, protection of life is the most important duty of any government that is in power. Now, if the lives of those people are in a compromised situation, what are you doing? How much are you contributing? Are we going to depend only on foreign donors? So what we do, matters. So he is here. He will be able probably to tell us whether federal government also is also participating fully in terms of funding, or are we only depending on the foreign donors? And so if tomorrow is not forthcoming, what happens, to the issue of taking care of our own citizens? So he's here to speak about that, though he has given credit to them, to the foreign donors. So maybe he should, brief us on what is the level of involvement of the federal government in this.
Okay, because it's government is a continuum, we're often told. So coming from the previous administration into this administration, just give us a picture of how Borno has been able to. It is a Nigerian state, has it felt very much as a Nigerian state? Because happy as I am, I still am a bit queasy that 80% of the work, has been done willingly, by the way, by foreign friends and donors. Yeah. So coming from the last administration to this administration.
Yeah, earlier, that issue of 80%, if you get me correctly, I said 80% of the funding of reconstruction works is being handled by Borno State government. But on the humanitarian aspect, the international community must be given larger credit. They are largely funding, the feeding with the Borno State government. Now, between 2011 and 2015, under the previous administration, the total cash support that Borno State government got from the previous administration was 200 million naira. And at some
point...
Was
that in 1 year?
In the whole of the 4 years, the total amount of cash contribution that we got from the previous was 200 million. There was a point Borno State government was spending 600 million naira monthly to feed IDPs. 600 million, because you're talking about almost 2 million IDPs, feeding them people who have nothing to do. Now, after the 2015 elections, I must say that between March and May, I think 2 months into the expiration of the previous president, NEMA began to step
the expiration
up.
Of his administration.
The administration. NEMA began to step up its contributions in terms of feeding.
The National Emergency Management Agency.
Then they began to step up their contributions, but I think ultimately the chunk of the contribution began to come after there was a transition, at the federal level. I don't know whether the president gave them a directive or what have you, but the contribution of NEMA drastically increased, if you had to compare it with what was the case.
And that impacted favorably on the Borno efforts.
Then I think even on the international community itself, you must first of all give credit to the president for even the involvement of the international community, because you might recall that after he came into power, he mobilized the world in support of Nigeria. In addition to that, his integrity also helped in attracting the support, because the international community would never have come to our aid if they didn't see a president they could trust. And then this issue of allegations, yes, they are true. There is no way you can have a system, like I said in the last time I appeared on this program, there were challenges, and I did mention that the governor had taken steps, and these steps are bearing fruit, because some of the culprits, have been prosecuted. They have been convicted, by the court of law. And then we now have intelligence officers among the IDPs who stay as undercover agents to report cases of sexual abuse, issues of theft, and that is why, to a large extent, you don't hear of some of these things. But even in the past, most of the support coming from the humanitarian organizations is not as if they give food aid to anybody to share. They don't. The ICRC, as a matter of their principle, they do direct distribution. When the Dangote Foundation, brought some food aid, the governor requested that, look, I want your ground staff to be part of the distribution network. The governor believes that there is always a need for the participation of a donor in implementing any donation.
Okay.
And that has been the the principle.
Okay.
So I think
this is in keeping with the whole principle of transparency, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Mazi Okoroafo, good morning. You want to join this conversation?
Good morning, Sir Yuri. Good morning, our guests in the studio.
Indeed. Thank you for calling in.
Nigerian government must be very careful about the young boys and young girls there. The issue of this child soldier not erupt in the near future, but we pray to not happen. Now, because I'm saying this because of this issue of husband. My question to SS, sir, what is the fate of the SS3 students through for university education? Do they have hope of scholarship? Because one thing of democracy is, one of the dividends of democracy is education. At least these students that are due for it, they deserve it. Thank you very much. I thank God for the reconstruction and development of the state. We pray that God will help us. Everything will come back to normal thing as it used to be. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day.
Okay. That is this here. Education in Borno, the developmental attitude to it.
I would want to respond by challenging TVC to send a special team to Borno to evaluate what the governor is doing in education. The governor has got 3 priorities, and I'll tell you, the first priority is education, the second is education, and the third is education. Look, Borno currently has 52,000 unaccompanied orphans, children whose both parents were killed by the Boko Haram. Now, the governor said, look, if we do not, to quote the governor, he always says that if we do not take care of these orphans, 15 years down the line, they will take care of us. Because
in a way we might not appreciate.
In a way that we will not appreciate. So what we are doing at the moment, we are currently building what we call mega schools. Now, each of these mega schools, they are at different stages of completion. I think about 8 or 9 of them have been completed. Others are at different levels of completion. Each of these schools would have a minimum of 1,600 students, depending on the number of classrooms. Now, these schools, they come with their hostels from primary 1 to just 3 levels.
Okay.
And then we have 52 widows whose husbands were killed, by the Boko Haram insurgents. So we are coming up with a policy of foster parenting, through which every widow will adopt one or two of the orphans. Okay. Because luckily for us, the numbers are almost proportional. These are 52,000, and the widows are 54,000. Okay. So the government plans that accommodation will be provided to the parents. The government will feed both the kids, and the foster parents. But what we want is for the child to have someone he could see as a mother. Okay,
that's a marvelous idea, if I may say so. It's a wonderful idea, and it sort of relates to the question I would have asked. Say, what are we going to do with 52,000 unaccompanied orphans? But there's a calling in from Borno State, Usman. Good, Usman. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Usman calling in from Gombe. Go ahead, Usman.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Yuri. Yeah, thank you very much. I want to commend you for this large program. And also my special greetings also goes to the lawyer, Bani, for his immeasurable contribution. Thank you, sir. Especially in HDC. Thank you, sir. Yeah, and then the SA2, I think this is the first time I've heard, from the source, of the state, who actually pointed out so many areas where people are not aware of. This kind of information is always imperative because, it bridges gaps, and then people have a lot of misconception about what is happening. As somebody who is coming from the northeast, I know the problem has been there for a very long time, most especially the problem in the IDP. And then so many cases have been reported, and at least government, the federal government, and whosoever has concern for the issue. I think they have contributed in one way or the other on how to tackle the problem.
Okay, thank you very much, Usman. I'm sorry to rush you, but I got to go to break now. But thank you very much for calling in and your appreciation of the update, shall we say, on the situation in Borno State. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and we got Onyekachi Ubani, Second National Vice President, MBA, in the House, as well as Issa Gusau, Special Advisor, Communication and Strategy to the Borno State Governor, Kashim Shettima. Now, let me come to you, Onyekachi, your area in particular. The situation in Borno, the way it is, I've been told that Ishak is on the line. Okay. Good morning, Ishak. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you, Mr. Yori. Good morning.
Thank you very much for calling. Go ahead.
I'm calling from Jos.
Sure.
Good morning to your guests.
Indeed.
I want to sympathize with the governor and the government of Borno State, because they are the worst hit on this terrorism attack in the country. I think even despite the fact that the governor, Borno State is the worst hit, the governor still performed creditably well. However, I think I want to suggest the need that the government of Borno State speak to the management of all schools so that they will advise them to be security conscious. Because I believe this terrorists will still look for a way to attack some more schools within Borno. And again, I think there's need for federal government to secure our border, particularly the porous border we have across the country. Because these are the links these terrorists use in order to perpetrate their serious activities. And that is my take. Have a wonderful day.
Very much for calling in. Heard that last sentence perfectly. Let me come back to you, Onyekachi. You're concerned with the law. Borno State, there are going to be law issues, especially that one of the preservation of human rights, fundamental human rights, and all of that. As Second National Vice President of the MBA, I have a sneaking feeling that the MBA is concerned about that as well.
Indeed.
First of all, is there an MBA in Gombe?
Yes, almost all the states have what we call branches of the MBA. And when this issue of state of insecurity in the entire northern region, especially the northeast, became very apparent, the MBA did something. The MBA led by A.B. Mahmoud's son, set up a committee that is actually concerned with the issue of insurgency in the entire northern region, and that committee has been working. MBA is actually concerned with the issue of rights of the citizens, the fundamental human rights, and then the way to avoid violation of those rights. And then the lawyers who are also in practice in most of these states have been encountering issue of having clients, and then issue of their own welfare, and issue of state of insecurity in those states and all that. So the MBA set up that committee that is liaising with all the northern region chairmen and members of the MBA to ensure that we defend the rights of the citizens that are there. Okay. Especially the IDP, those people in IDP camps, so to avoid violation of rights. So that committee is working. And coincidentally, I happen to be the one in charge of the entire northern region. As the second vice, yes, I'm assigned to do that. In fact, next week I will be in Kaduna in order to see the branch chairmen and secretaries, in the northwest. After which the next destination will be the northeast, and after which I will go to the north central. Okay, so it's completely on the MBA's radar then. Yeah, that's right. Okay, that's right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdullahi in Sango, for holding on. Go ahead, please.
Please, sir. Oh God, how do the Chibok girls survive?
She's asking how did the Chibok girls survive? I mean, the people that were rescued recently, how did they survive? That's the question.
Okay, Issa, take a shot.
Well, at the moment, the federal government is fully in custody of all the Chibok girls. there are a total of 106 freed Chibok girls, both those who were rescued, talking about the first set of 3 girls, Amina, and the other people that were rescued individually, and then the 21 that were negotiated for in October 2016, and then the 82 that were recently freed. A total of 106 are with the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, the Borno State government. Like the minister did confirm, last week we were with the vice president, and the minister said something that got even the vice president laughing. The minister said Governor Shettima is someone she could call an angel. And the vice president said, why did you say that? He said, look, even when he knows that the federal government has a lot of money, these girls are with the federal government, the governor said that, look, these are our daughters. These are citizens of Borno. So whatever the federal government plans to do for them, I am willing to top money to improve on whatever it is that you are providing. And the governor has been doing that. So I will tell you that the girls, some of them, the first 24, they have passed through the counseling. I want to believe that they have fully, they are mentally stable now, and I think they are ready, to go to school in September. The 82 now are just going through the process, and of course the process involves checking their health, ensuring that they don't have health issues. Those who have health issues, they are being addressed, and then after that there are a lot of other psychosocial, counseling, and then reuniting with their parents, to get them to that level. Okay,
Bidda now, going over to Bidda, where Joshua is waiting to join the conversation. Good morning.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
And,
thank you for calling.
The team of the panelists on the table. I want to really contribute this way, because you discover that in Nigeria, you see that we don't take things very serious. We like treating the symptom, not really going to the root of the problem. You will see in our major cities, in major towns and villages, you discover all these small boys now out going to street begging. You see many of these people at the end of the day graduate because they are not really taken good care of. It is time that our leaders wake up and take care of these very youth off the street and send them into different schools. And even the African Union, you discover that they really have a very great task in their hands to make sure that our youth are brought into the mainstream politics, whereby they will be able to contribute their own quota and see that they contribute their own quota in saying that Africa developed rapidly as well a continent. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much for calling in. Isa, when you were speaking, you spoke about the children having passed or are passing through counseling. That just reminded me, I saw a news item where the federal government, I think, is busing parents and relatives of Chibok girls so that they can meet with them. This, no doubt, is going to be part of the whole process of their treatment. Can you say anything about that? Because it suggests to me that it can't be as frequent as perhaps those of us that are not professionals might have wanted it or might have thought. Chibok is quite far from the federal capital. How's that going to happen? You're going to bus them to an airport and then fly them, or you're going to bus them all the way to Abuja? Just give me your commentary on that idea of, because the comment has gone out before that the parents, they've severed relations with their relatives. Apparently not so. Give me your commentary on the arrangement in place.
I know the minister did say that they were considering bringing the parents, to Abuja rather than taking the girls there. For a girl that has been with violent terror group for over 3 years, only the security experts may probably know the extent of how much some of these girls might have been radicalized. From my interaction with the girls, I was with the governor and his wife. We met them in Abuja last week. From what I saw in these girls, I see girls, I didn't see radicalization in them. But what I see would be different from what the experts,
what the experts think.
So the experts, depending on their evaluation of each of these girls, I believe every lady will be treated based on what has been discovered, in her. If, for instance, you come across a girl who might have fallen in love with a Boko Haram commander for whatever reason, or who might have been brainwashed into seeing what the insurgents are doing is right, you might be concerned about exposing that girl even to the parents. Because having stayed with the Boko Haram for 3 years, she might even see the parents as infidels, people who are completely on the wrong spiritual path. So the security experts, we have to give them the credit.
And psychologists.
We have to give them the credit of doing their own job, evaluating each of these cases, treating them on their own merits. If they believe that this girl, after the counseling, the debriefing, and what have you, by the psychologists, by the security experts, if they are certain that this girl is harmless, she has no radicalization, I believe they will be much more willing, to allow them to have access to, to their parents.
Okay. Thank you very much for holding on, Mr. George in Ikeja. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle George.
Good morning, sir.
Please, I would like to say this. This Boko Haram war is in two phases of battle. One is the physical battle with the Boko Haram fighters. The second one is the philosophy that they try to entrench, that there is no need, that education is evil and all that. Yes, the government is doing fine in the area of tackling the physical fight that they are waging. I would like to ask the SA to the governor, what is the Borno State governor, and perhaps in liaison with other governors in the north, doing with the indoctrination of Haram philosophy?
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. George. I've got to go to a break now, so he'll take that question when we come back. Stay with us, please. Welcome back. And just before we went on break, Mr. George had phoned in and wanted to know what efforts Governor Kashim Shettima had been able to deploy to combat possible negative effects of indoctrination among the children.
The governor is approaching 3 strategies. The first one, you might recall that last year, the governor constituted an Islamic preaching board, and he gave them marching orders.
I didn't know that. Yes. An Islamic preaching board.
Yeah.
Okay. It sort of regulates preaching.
Yeah, they regulate preaching, and they were asked to ensure that they have representatives in all the villages. So you can't just stand up in any mosques and begin to preach, or begin to preach anywhere until you are certified by that board to know where you got your knowledge, who are your mentors, to ensure that they are not coming to pass
bad education.
Bad education. So that's one aspect the governor is doing. In addition to that, he is strengthening, all the religious body, both those in the Christian faith, and the Muslims. If you go to Borno now, there is a lot of harmony between the Christian Association of Nigeria, and the imams. He's rebuilding mosques and rebuilding churches, because when you have harmony among the religious groups, they are likely to be in tandem. You are likely to pass, better message. But most importantly, the major approach that the governor seems to be banking on is on girl-child education. People fail to realize that the #1 problem of northern Nigeria today is population explosion. The number of out-of-school children in the north is alarming. At the last count, one statistics, there are over 10 million out-of-school children. This was as at 2-3 years ago. I want to believe the number is more. Now, while the governor is focusing on girl-child education, at the moment, I have a wife, and 3 kids. And then the last time I was discussing with my wife, my third child, is around 4 years. I was asking my wife, when do you want to have another child? She said, honestly, I should forget about the issue of childbirth now. She's not even thinking about it. Why did she say so? It's because she's educated. So like the governor always says, that all this issue of Child Rights Act and the rest, the most important thing is educate the northern girl child. An educated woman will be concerned about giving birth to children that the husband will not take care of. An educated woman will not marry an irresponsible man who will begin to produce children that he cannot, cater for.
So we're trying to work on the attitudes as well.
We want to get the girls educated so that you control the childbirth, the reckless childbirth. And I think it's really going to work. And the number of the girl child enrollment in Borno now is almost at a revolutionary.
What of the male child? I hope you're not excluding.
Of course we are not. The reason.
Craig has been holding on. Good morning, Craig.
Good morning, Tibiori.
Thank you for calling in, sir.
Yeah, so the SSAA, there is awareness that we want him to take note very well. Yeah, so the IDP people, this is a place I usually go, and if I go, I spend nothing less than 2, 3, 4, 5 months there. So I'm aware. Even I had a business there before. Now, what I'm trying to say is this. Concerning the IDP people, there is a kind of corruption that is going on.
Internally displaced persons, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Government really needs to investigate what I'm trying to tell you now. I want to believe what the amount they usually give these people is about 21,000 every month. And they share it to be 15,000 naira on a cash basis and 7,000 naira foodstuffs. Supposed to be based on that. But eventually, they will give 6,000 naira to these people and about 3,000 naira worth of food, which is total number of something like 9,000 naira. What I'm telling you is not speculation, it's what I know. And because I'm a little bit...
Oh, you're talking about sharp practices?
Yes.
Which of the IDP camps?
When you say you go there, first of all, as a private individual, as part of an NGO or something like that? Hello? Craig, I wanted to sort of get a bit more background, whether you were going there in your personal capacity or part of an NGO, and then I would have wanted to know which of the IDP camps, but unfortunately we lost that line because you seem to be talking about sharp practices that, according to you, the stipend is 21,000, but they managed to pay them no more than the value of 9,000 from 21,000. That was the point.
If I can respond to that.
Sure.
There are 2 categories of IDPs, or rather 3. There are IDPs that are in formal camps. They are around 257,000. There are IDPs in what we call satellite camps. These are local government areas that have been liberated, and then the headquarters are safe for occupation. People live outside Maiduguri and Jere. And there are IDPs in host communities. Particularly within Maiduguri and Jere, there are about 1.5 million. Now, to the best of my knowledge, no IDP in any of the formal or satellite camps are being given any stipends. The IDPs that are given stipends, I think as at last year, I knew it was introduced by the World Food Program, and it is called a conditional cash transfer. The essence of that was to stimulate the local economy. And I think as of last year, they were able to cover about 200,000 IDPs out of 1.5 million IDPs within the host community. And then this cash is not given to anyone. It's not given to Borno State government or to the federal government. The funds, the World Food Program went into an agreement with Airtel Nigeria. They registered these IDPs. They gave them some sort of SIM cards. So the World Food Program credits the SIM card, and then the beneficiary takes the SIM card to Airtel.
Okay, to
and
Airtel.
Airtel retrieve it and give them cash. So
Oh,
in other words, yes, that's what and it's 17,000 naira, not 21,000. So there is even no third party involvement. So I really don't know how it is possible.
Oh,
well,
thank you very much.
Yes, yeah, it is.
Everything is
any information
explanation. Is someone else on the line? Alaji Subaya, good morning.
Yeah, Mr. Yori, good morning.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah, my take this morning is that I'm surprised, I'm wondering whether the SC, what the information is given to us is real and truth. Why I'm saying this is that a lot of people have visited not in that the Borno Act concerning the development. Recently, some months ago, Femi Anikulako visited here. He talked about undeplorable situation that place is becoming. He had a lot of contribution from international, community. Nothing to show up, but I'm surprised when the SAC is talking that there's a development. A lot of people have been there and said nothing is happening. We don't know where the money is being buried. You understand? Then another issue is the issue of you talk about universities, taking care of the universities, everything is in control. People are start clamoring about the mode of dress. We are Muslim. You see, when something is happening, and it's a calamity to your people, you change the mode of dress. The Hajjia, the system of dressing, which is causing a lot of calamity. Nothing that the government has done to that. And people's lives has been lost every day. Then the issue of Chibok girls, Mr. Oyeka Abani. You see, they are wondering.
Well, he just brought Oyeka Ubani into the matter, but then...
Yes.
Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still there.
What were you saying about Mr. Oyeka Ubani?
What I'm saying is this. You see, a lot of research all along since last year. The Americans came, do a lot of sightseeing. They didn't know where the Chibok gas is. Now the Chibok gas is coming in. That's a lot of fishing. That is why I want Oyeka Ubani to talk about. We are confused about the whole issue. That the Chibok gas is surfacing. Thank you.
I didn't get it.
And neither did I. Neither did I. But the first part of his contribution was disputing advances in Borno State by the government and all concerned people.
Development.
Yes, and I think he managed to put in Femi Anikulapo's visit to the place.
Femi Anikulapo?
Yes.
In Borno? When? Maybe I want to believe he's mixing up maybe Borno with the first thing, because to the best of my knowledge, I can't remember Femi.
These musicians have the things that they do. Like
but I think it is a very simple thing. TVC, you've got a team of reporters in Borno. All you need to do, ask them to go and do an independent report.
Yes.
Look at the infrastructural development. Look at how Maiduguri is, and file a report. Pictures don't lie. That's one aspect of it. And then secondly, I have always admitted that there are challenges in management.
And there's a lot more to do.
There is always a challenge. But Nigerians need to think about this. If we say that maybe the officials of the National Emergency Management Agency would keep quiet and see a lot of wrongs being perpetrated by the Borno State government because they are APC, keep that aside. Yes. We have international organizations. You have the USAID, the WFP, the IOM. They are about over 20 international organizations are operating with Borno State government. Look, this management of IDP camps is not a child's play. There are 5 sectors in management of these IDP camps, and every sector has a UN, an international partner that is keyed into that sector. The sector of health, for instance, has the Borno State Ministry of Health as part of it, has the Federal Ministry of Health as part of it, has the UNICEF, has any other international partner that specializes in the health sector. So if things are going as bad as he says, I don't think these international partners will keep quiet.
Indeed. Well, thank you very much. I mean, we can only... This is the way he saw it, and then you get enlightenment from people who are actually on the ground. We've run out of time, but it's been a most fruitful 1 hour.
Well, you kept me here for this, and I know I'm not from Borno.
Yes, but nevertheless, we'll take the last words from you on the situation here.
I think we must commend this government in this fight against Boko Haram insurgents. They're doing much, but we need to understand where the remnants are and try to nip it, because they keep on, having claim that you have decimated them, but most times they come with another method of, especially this suicide bombing and all that. So if it is from the border, let's make sure that we police our borders properly. If they're in the Sambisa, we should make sure that we get them out of that particular forest and keep our country safe. It's very important.
Indeed. And so thank you very much, Oyeka Ubani, Second National Vice President of MVA. And our thanks also to Issa Gusau, Special Advisor on Communications and Strategy, to the Borno State Governor Kashim Shettima. Thank you very much for coming on. And
it's always a pleasure.
Being quite frankly, giving us a report as a reporter on ground. But you've also said that we bring our own cameras to it as well.
Yeah, you're free. You can even do it today.
Okay, so that's our program today. Hope you have a great weekend. See you on Monday, God willing. Bye-bye for now.